Welcome, everyone, to our deep dive today. We'll be exploring some core ideas from the first chapter of a foundational text on Raja Yoga.
Okay.
We're really going to unpack how this system can help people achieve higher awareness and self-mastery.
Yeah. It's interesting because this text approaches it almost like a science,
Hmm.
which, might surprise people.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's break that down.
Sure.
The text says that everything in Raja Yoga stems from experience,
Mm-hmm.
even religion.
Yeah.
It even goes as far as saying that it's pointless to talk about religion until you felt it yourself.
Right.
So what's that all about?
Well, it seems to be challenging blind faith, encouraging us to actually seek proof of these spiritual truths ourselves.
Hmm.
Instead of just accepting what others say, it's
Yeah.
about personally experiencing and validating the ideas.
Okay, so how does that tie into this scientific approach then?
Right.
What makes Raja Yoga a science?
Well, it proposes specific methods to gain inner perception, much like, scientists have techniques to observe the natural world.
Right.
But instead of a microscope or a telescope, the tool here is our own mind.
So instead of looking outward, we turn our attention inward.
Yeah, exactly. The idea is to directly observe our mental processes,
Okay.
becoming aware of our thoughts and emotions as they happen.
But how do you even begin to do that?
Mm.
That sounds incredibly challenging.
It is challenging. The text really emphasizes practice and mental training.
Right.
Using this phrase, mind studying mind. It's
Okay.
like we become both the observer and the observed.
Hold on. What exactly does that look like in practice?
Okay.
Is it like sitting in silence and trying to empty your mind?
Not quite.
Okay.
It's more about focusing your mental energy,
Okay.
which is, usually scattered all over the place.
Right.
Raja Yoga provides techniques to harness and concentrate that energy. It's like strengthening a muscle.
Right.
The more you practice, the better you become at directing your attention.
That makes sense. And the text claims that really understanding our inner nature, this true self, can actually free us from fear and misery.
Right.
So how does that work?
Well, it suggests that by recognizing our true self, which is eternal and unchanging, we can move beyond the temporary desires and worries that cause us so much suffering.
Okay.
We begin to see that our true self is not limited by our physical body or constantly changing life situations.
Okay, so we find peace and liberation by realizing our true nature.
Precisely, the text even suggests that it's possible to experience perfect bliss while still living in the physical body. A kind of happiness that goes beyond our usual ups and downs.
Now, to get there, it sounds like concentration plays a key role.
Yeah.
But how does concentrating help us to know ourselves better?
Well, concentration is crucial in Raja Yoga.
Okay.
Think about how scientists use focused attention to uncover the secrets of the natural world. Similarly, a Raja Yogi uses concentration to explore their inner world. And this is where it gets really interesting. Sankhya philosophy, the foundation of Raja Yoga, says that our mind isn't just some abstract idea.
Yeah.
It's made of a subtle, real substance.
So you're saying that our thoughts have a physical basis in a way.
That's the idea.
Wow.
And get this, Raja Yoga says that we can actually refine and improve this mental material through practice, like a sculptor refining a piece of art.
Okay.
That's how we achieve deeper self-knowledge.
Okay, so it's not just about observing our thoughts. It's about actively shaping the very substance of our minds.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Now, the text also talks about this close connection between the mind and body.
Right.
Is that where the food part comes in?
Exactly. Raja Yoga suggests that what we eat has a direct impact on our mental state. It's about recognizing that food is more than just fuel. It affects our thoughts and emotions.
So what we eat can literally change how we think.
The text uses the example of a menagerie,
Okay.
comparing the calm elephants to the restless lions and tigers, highlighting how diet influences their behavior.
So imagine a lion trying to meditate after a big steak dinner.
Right, exactly.
That paints a pretty clear picture.
Yeah.
So is Raja Yoga suggesting a specific diet for mental clarity?
Not necessarily. The text cautions against extremes.
Like?
It's not about living on lettuce and water, but about finding a balanced approach that nourishes both body and mind.
Right.
A true yogi avoids both luxurious indulgence and harsh austerity.
Okay, balance is key. But how do we actually start controlling our minds? Where do you even begin?
Well, it starts with understanding that our mental energy is often scattered.
Okay.
We jump from one thought to the next without much control. Raja Yoga provides techniques to harness that energy and focus it like a laser beam.
Right.
And that, as we discussed earlier, is where concentration comes in. It's
Mhm.
not about emptying the mind,
Right.
but learning to direct it.
So we're training our minds to be more like powerful tools than unruly wild animals.
That's a great way to put it. And by focusing our attention inward, we can start to unravel the mysteries of our inner world.
This is fascinating stuff, and I'm already feeling like I need some time to digest all of this.
I agree, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah,
But don't worry, we've got plenty more to unpack.
right.
In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how this philosophy translates into actual techniques for self-transformation.
Okay, sounds good.
Stay tuned for that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so we've laid some groundwork talking about how Raja Yoga views experience as key and how it takes a scientific approach to inner exploration.
Right.
We even touched on this mind-blowing idea that our minds are made of a substance we can refine through practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is, and it really challenges our usual way of thinking about the mind, but the text doesn't stop there.
Okay.
It also suggests that this inner work can have a profound impact on our external world as well.
Wait, hold on. You're saying that by working on ourselves internally,
Yeah.
we can actually change things outside of ourselves?
Yeah, that's what it seems to be saying.
How is that even possible?
It's a bold claim.
Yeah.
And the text doesn't really get into the specifics of how it works, but it seems to be suggesting that as we gain mastery over our inner world, we tap into a deeper level of harmony with the universal forces that govern everything.
So it's not about bending spoons with our minds or something like that.
Right. It's more about recognizing that we're not separate from the universe,
Okay.
but rather an integral part of it.
Okay.
And by aligning ourselves with the underlying principles of the universe, we can potentially wield a greater influence on our surroundings.
Okay. That's a bit mind-bending, but I'm following you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the text also mentions the need for certain regulations,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to food.
Right.
We touched on this
Yeah.
earlier,
Right.
but I'd love to explore it further. What's the connection between what we eat and this idea of controlling our minds?
Well, remember how we talked about the close relationship between the mind and body?
Right.
Well, Raja Yoga suggests that the food we consume directly impacts our mental state. It's not about specific diets, but about understanding that what we put into our bodies affects our minds.
So you're saying that if I eat a greasy burger and fries,
Mm-hmm.
it might make it harder to focus and be present.
Exactly. The text uses the example of a menagerie,
Oh.
comparing the calm nature of elephants to the restless energy of lions and tigers,
Right.
highlighting how their diets play a role.
That's a vivid image.
Yeah.
It makes you think twice about what you eat. But does that mean a Raja Yogi has to live on a diet of lettuce and water?
Not at all. Remember, the text cautions against extremes.
Right.
It's not about deprivation, but balance.
Okay.
Finding a middle path that nourishes both body and mind.
Got it. Balance is key.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the text describes techniques for actually controlling the mind.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sneak peek into what those techniques might involve?
Well, it's all about learning to direct and concentrate the mind's energy. Think of it like this. Our mental energy is often scattered, flitting from one thought to the next like a butterfly in a field of flowers.
Right.
Raja Yoga provides techniques to harness and focus that energy, making it more like a laser beam.
And that's where concentration comes in, right?
Exactly.
It's about developing the ability to focus our attention where we want it, when we want it.
Precisely. The text emphasizes that concentration is like a muscle that needs training. It's the key to unlocking deeper levels of self-awareness and ultimately controlling the mind.
So it's about directing that concentrated mental energy inward towards understanding our internal nature.
Exactly. Raja Yoga teaches us to turn our minds inward,
Okay.
to observe our thoughts, emotions, and mental patterns without judgment.
Okay.
It's about becoming a witness to our own internal world.
It sounds a bit like mindfulness, wouldn't you say? Paying attention to the present moment, to what's happening within.
You could draw some parallels there, absolutely. Both mindfulness and Raja Yoga encourage a kind of detached observation of the mind. But Raja Yoga takes it further by aiming to not just observe, but to ultimately gain mastery over the mind.
So by understanding and controlling our inner world,
Yeah,
we can achieve greater peace and freedom in our lives.
that's the idea. The text claims that by mastering the mind, we can overcome fear, desire, and all those things that cause us suffering.
Right.
We tap into a deeper level of being our true self, which is eternally peaceful and blissful.
It's a compelling idea for sure.
Mm.
And the fact that Raja Yoga approaches this inner exploration in a systematic, almost scientific way makes it even more intriguing.
That's what sets it apart for many people. It's not about blind faith or accepting dogma.
Right.
It's a personal experimentation and direct experience.
Mm.
Raja Yoga encourages you to try the techniques to put in the practice and to see for yourself whether these claims hold true.
I love that. It's about taking ownership of our spiritual growth and not relying on external authorities.
Mhm.
Now, before we move on, I'd like to revisit this idea of refining the mind's material.
Okay.
It's such a fascinating concept, but I'm still a bit fuzzy on how it actually works. Can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Sure, this gets into the territory of Sankhya philosophy, which is the basis for Raja Yoga.
Right.
Sankhya says the mind isn't just an abstract concept.
Okay.
It's made of a very fine, subtle material substance.
So it's not just electrical signals firing in our brains.
Right.
There's something more to it.
Right. While there's definitely a physical aspect to the brain and its functions, Sankhya proposes that there's also a non-physical subtle aspect to the mind.
And this subtle material can be refined and controlled through the practices of Raja Yoga.
That's the claim. By practicing concentration, meditation, and other techniques, we can refine this material, making the mind more powerful and capable.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Mm-hmm.
If we refine our minds, are we literally making our thoughts stronger in some way?
It's an interesting way to think about it. Imagine your mind as a muddy pond. Through practice, you start to settle the mud, allowing the water to become clear.
Right.
That's how Raja Yoga views refining the mind's material.
Okay.
It becomes clearer, more focused, and more capable of reflecting our true nature.
Okay. I'm starting to get a clearer picture.
Yeah.
This is truly revolutionary stuff.
Yeah.
So we've covered the importance of experience, the connection between the mind and body, the role of diet, and the significance of concentration.
Right.
What other key takeaways should we highlight from this first chapter before we dive into the final part of our deep dive?
Well, there's the emphasis on discarding anything that weakens us.
Okay.
The text specifically cautions against mystery-mongering and encourages us to embrace strength and reason in our pursuit of truth.
So no secret handshakes or hidden rituals in Raja Yoga.
Not if we're staying true to the source material.
Okay.
It's about being clear, practical, and straightforward in your approach, and it's about cultivating strength, both mental and ethical.
I like that it aligns with this idea of taking responsibility for our own growth and not relying on external crutches or mystical shortcuts. Now, I know we've covered a lot already, but there's still so much to explore in this fascinating first chapter. What can we expect in the final part of our deep dive?
We'll delve deeper into the practical techniques of Raja Yoga, exploring how these philosophical concepts translate into tangible practices for self-transformation.
Okay.
We'll also touch on the concept of the Purusha, the true self, and how Raja Yoga helps us realize this ultimate reality within ourselves.
That sounds incredible. I can't wait to dive in.
Yeah.
We'll be back right after this for the final part of our deep dive into Raja Yoga. Stay tuned.
All right.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the world of Raja Yoga. We've covered so much ground already, exploring how this system encourages direct experience, the mind-body connection, and even the idea that we can refine the very substance of our minds.
Right.
But I'm curious about this concept of the Purusha, the true self, that you mentioned.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, the Purusha is a core concept from Sankhya philosophy, which, as we've discussed, is the foundation of Raja Yoga. It's described as the ultimate principle of consciousness,
Okay.
the pure awareness that exists beneath all of our experiences.
Okay.
Think of it like the light that illuminates a movie screen.
Okay.
The movie itself, with all its characters and drama, is like our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions.
Right.
But the light shining through it all,
Yeah.
that's the Purusha.
So it's not our thoughts or feelings themselves,
Right.
but the awareness that's experiencing them.
Exactly. It's the witness, the observer, that remains unchanged even as our thoughts and emotions come and go.
Right.
And according to Sankhya, the Purusha isn't subject to the limitations of the physical body or the constant changes of life. It's eternal and unchanging.
That's a powerful idea.
It is.
So is the goal of Raja Yoga then to realize our true nature as this Purusha?
That's the ultimate aim.
Okay.
Raja Yoga provides a path to break free from the confines of our limited ego selves. The part of us that identifies with our thoughts and emotions, it's about recognizing that we are not just our thoughts, but the awareness experiencing those thoughts.
That sounds like a profound shift in perspective.
It is.
But how does Raja Yoga actually help us to achieve this realization?
Well, through the practices we've been discussing,
Okay.
concentration, meditation, and ethical living, we gradually refine the mind's material, making it more transparent and receptive to the light of the Purusha.
Okay.
It's like polishing a mirror so that it can reflect our true nature more clearly.
So it's not about suppressing the mind or trying to force it to be quiet,
Right.
but rather about refining and training it so that it becomes a tool for self-realization.
Precisely, the mind becomes a gateway to experiencing the peace and bliss of the Purusha,
Right.
rather than a source of distraction and suffering.
Earlier, we discussed how Raja Yoga views itself as a science. How does that play into this idea of self-realization?
Well, it means that Raja Yoga encourages us to approach this inner journey with a spirit of inquiry and experimentation.
Yeah.
It's not about blindly accepting someone else's truth, but about discovering truth for ourselves through direct experience.
So instead of just reading about the Purusha in a book,
Yeah.
we're encouraged to actually experience it for ourselves through practice.
Exactly. Raja Yoga provides the tools and techniques,
Right.
but it's up to each individual to put in the effort and to see for themselves whether these claims hold true.
That's what I find so empowering about Raja Yoga, you know? It's a path of self-discovery and empowerment.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how it connects this inner work with the potential to influence the external world, as we talked about earlier.
Right. And it all comes back to this idea of harmony and alignment.
Right.
As we refine the mind and realize our true nature as the Purusha, we become more aligned with the fundamental principles that govern the universe. And that alignment may open up possibilities we can't even imagine right now.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible.
Yeah.
You know, we've explored so many thought-provoking concepts about the mind, the self, and the universe. And it's clear that Raja Yoga is more than just a set of ancient practices.
It is.
It's a profound system of self-transformation that's still relevant today.
I couldn't agree more. It offers a timeless wisdom that can guide us on our journey of self-discovery and help us navigate the complexities of life with greater clarity, purpose, and inner peace.
So for those of you listening, I encourage you to keep exploring. Raja Yoga offers a path to unlock your true potential and experience a deeper level of freedom and fulfillment in your life.
Absolutely.
And remember, the most important journey is the one within. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Raja Yoga.
Thanks, everyone.